Thank you all. I would like to call to order the budget workshop on February the 14th, 2024. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, a little roll. Very good call. Now, if we could just take a moment of reflection, bow our heads, open our hearts. Thank you all for that. Before we get to public input, I do have a brief statement to make as the chair regarding our purpose here tonight and what our goals are. Our purpose as a committee is to collaborate to ensure we continue to provide the services and resources necessary to maintain and improve upon the educational opportunities and outcomes of students and stakeholders. We also have a responsibility to all Little Compton stakeholders to act in a fiscally thoughtful and responsible manner in doing so. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome everybody. I know everybody that is present here tonight does put a lot of effort into making this budget and making this presentation. So I thank you all in advance. And at this time, I will turn over, there is no public input. I will turn over the presentation of the Little Compton School Department budget to Mr. John McNamee and Superintendent.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I made a big boo-boo this weekend, contacting our business manager on Super Bowl Sunday. I would never do that again.
Oh my gosh, we
But
write that in.
work on this for us. Yes. You can do it. Thank you so much. This is missing from your packet. Don't ask me how I forgot to include this in the slideshow. We are a 5-star district. Less than 8% of the districts in the state are in a 5-star status. The metric is super complicated, as you already know. It has to do with student achievement, student growth in the assessed areas of math and science, and also campus culture, student attendance, and absenteeism, staff absenteeism. And here we are, we're almost a 3-star school district, 3-star school, and which is good, okay? But we are now A++, plus 5 stars. So that's something that I wanted to underscore. Once again, we knocked out of the park the aggregate district data in our assessed grades, grade 8. We are #1 in the state in terms of ELA achievement, efficiency rates, science achievement, and also in math, we are #6. We're not happy with that, so we hope to go even higher. But if we look at 66 districts and LEAs, 56 of them with grades 3, we are really a star, a superstar district, and it is in large part due to the amazing support of this community and the staff and the families, and of course, our hardworking children. Not only did our aggregate data as a district make it to the top, but we have several grade levels that are the top in the state as well. Grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Every single grade ended up being in the top 1, 2, or 3 just about in the state, and that is no small feat. And one of the reasons why we're getting more stars than ever, we know that our achievement data is going up, our kids are learning more, the teaching has become so deep and relevant, but we're also moving the needle every year. So we are, RIDE also looks at growth. You can't be a good or great school and be complacent in their eyes. You have to keep on moving forward. So we have moved that needle every single year in all of our assessed areas. That blue arrow on the right. And also, I have to say, this list keeps on getting longer, so sometimes I have to chop a few things off. This year, I added a bullet under social emotional learning, and that is educator wellness programs. Our educators knock it out of the park every single day. Our teachers work bell to bell. I visit classrooms. I've been super busy the past 6-7 weeks doing that. I am astounded at what I am seeing in the classroom. I'm seeing deep learning, real life application of learning, engaged students. There's no classroom management going on because it doesn't need to be. The students are that invested in their learning. It's wonderful to see that firsthand. So under social emotional, we have all the best things that a school could have. We have systems in place, multi-tiered systems of support, evaluation, team meetings. Thank you, Mr. Dufresne, for running an incredible brand new student support services department. We have wraparound services. Our clinicians service kids, see kids, meet with kids year round, including throughout the summer. We have an additional clinician who's dedicated to the preschoolers and the primary grades. We have weekly meetings to discuss student progress, the whole student. We have learning recovery coordination going on when kids are out for a long time to transition them back in. We have everything that conversations about kids, individual kids, groups of kids. Under academics, let's face it, we're the top district in the state in terms of it's just no getting around. Yes, we're tiny, and that makes it even more amazing and incredible because the power of small numbers could sink us very easily. And so this means more kids in this district, statistically, are being taught, their needs are being met to a degree where they are meeting or exceeding grade level expectations more than any other district in the state in ELA and science. That is not easy to do, no matter whether you have 215 kids like we do right now or 2015. It's all about the statistics and that particular end value. And our end value is really small, and so could be easily impacted. And our teachers are doing an amazing job. Our families are doing an amazing job in collaborating and partnering with their kids' teachers. We have AIM Pathways credentialing, that is the science of reading, that has swept over the state, where he's seen that it makes a difference. All of our teachers, 100% of them are credentialed. As we get on board new teachers, they're also going through the credentialing. It's basically, if your kid is a graduate course. I know because I did it with all of our K-5 teachers. It was one of the most difficult graduate courses I've ever completed. So all of our teachers have done that in K-5, and 6, 7, and 8, those teachers have to complete what's called an awareness level. And they've all done that as well. We're seeing a difference. It works. Our literacy interventionists, we have 2. They push in, they co-teach with the classroom teachers. Our ELA curriculum is now deemed high quality by the state of Rhode Island. That is a mandate, so we have to do that. We have shifted this year to Eureka 2, Eureka squared, and that is also a high quality curriculum package. And so all of these shifts have taken place in the past few years. We have not only met our deadlines, we definitely finished well before our deadlines, sometimes a year or 2 in advance. The state gave us about 3 or 4 years, depending on what subject area it is, to roll in all of these new curriculum packages. We have Plan Board, which is a digital plan book. We're going to transition that to a new student information system soon. We also added Toddle this year. It is such, it has AI in it, components that teachers can use. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's definitely international baccalaureate focused. So we added that this year and we are loving it. The gentleman to my, two gentlemen to my left. The gentleman over here to my left is our technology coordinator, director. We share him with the town. He also services the public safety complex, both the fire and the police departments. And he is an extraordinary worker, person, and visionary. So he always has us at the cutting edge. He calls it leading edge, but it sounds a little bit too violent first. But that's what they call it in his space. But the cutting edge technology is his thing, and he always has us ahead of the game. I am just so proud of the department that he runs, and he's basically the only employee in it. It's amazing. So yes, I can hand over to John, and he is responsible for these slides, and I will just sort of extemporize as needed. Oh, I have to run. I'll see you there. I'll go.
So you can see the difference in the superintendent's slides and mine. It's going to get right to the point. As superintendent was going through the budget, I was just thinking that I just finished up the public schools budget, which is about $65 million. Some of the issues that we face there are some of the same issues we're facing here, certainly at a smaller scale. One of the things that we're seeing up in Lincoln, which I think we'll see here a little bit, is that coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing children coming into the school districts needing more services. There was a lapse in certainly providing those during the pandemic, and we're seeing the result now. So we're seeing a lot more in that area. In fact, when we look at out-of-district placements, and we'll see an increase in our budget for FY25 versus 24, in talking with my special ed director and other directors around the state, there are no placements in Rhode Island for students coming in that need an outside placement right now. They are all completely full at this point in time, which is an indication that these kids need additional services that weren't provided, and now we've got to kind of catch up. So we're seeing a little bit of an increase in that area. And of course, as with all businesses, we're seeing the impacts of inflation on some of our items. But when you look at, for example, the teacher's contract, where we're at a 2% increase, certainly below inflation, so we're able to kind of keep down the overall expenses, certainly below the 3%. One of the areas when we look at enrollment, we look at this slide every year, and we this year we're seeing a little bit of an increase at the high school, a small decrease pre-K through 8 for 2024. We don't know what 2025 will bring in terms of whether pre-K or K enrollment, but we think it'll be pretty consistent with 24, if not a little bit of an increase.
Yeah.
We certainly have seen an increase in the tuition paying students, which has driven up the revenue, which I think is a good thing. And I really want to go through that.
Thanks a lot, John.
So here it is by grade level. And, you know, in 23, you look at grade 8, we have 26 students in there, those going up to the high school, which is I think we had 20 kids graduating, so we're seeing a little bit of a bump up in the Western High School students, but it's a pretty good distribution in terms of students by grade level. Here's the Portsmouth High School. You can see that grade 10, which is really, that was the one that helped us as we went through the transition and the tuition, with the decrease in the enrollment. us a little bit of some breathing room to kind of catch up with that increase in the tuition. So, and I believe we'll go through what we're looking at for next year for enrollment, but we'll probably see that continuing to increase a bit at the high school. The thing you got to remember with this is that we also have two students at the Met, which is the state-run CTE program. We also have 5 students. I think there's only 2 full-time.
Full-time, the other's a part-time.
And the others are part-timers at the Newport Career and Tech. So those students, if they hadn't been going to those schools, would be going to the high school. So, you know, you got to take that into consideration when you're looking at your overall enrollment. This is our state aid. Again, we're looking at another decrease. It's roughly around $27,000 from FY24. The FY25 number is the governor's proposed aid. In your reminder that I prepared, you'll see the budget recommended aid for all the cities and towns, which are included in the budget. Last year, we took another hit in 24, and you can see over from 22 to 25, it's almost $100,000 reduction overall state aid. Fortunately, we made up some of that money with the tuition paying students to kind of make up that differential. So what we're proposing, and this is the other, obviously, is the bigger revenue number, is we are proposing, and again, we'll probably still make some additional tweaks to the budget. What we're hoping to do, we had a discussion with the superintendent today about trying to take that percentage down below the 3%, which would get us more in line with where we were in prior years. But right now, to fund the existing budget with the programs that we have in place, with the full-time equivalents that we have, which is basically no significant change at all with full-time equivalents, we'd be looking at $234,478, which is a 3% increase. The reason we do this percentage is under the state law, school committees cannot propose a budget that exceeds 1.04% of the prior year appropriation. So if you take FY24, we had $7,815,947, which was voted at the financial town meeting, times the 1.04% would give us a maximum that we could ask for. So at this point, we're looking for only 3%. But we are limited in terms of what we can ask from the town. On the expenditure side, and it's kind of interesting slide because we're looking at increase in our overall expenditures compared to FY24 budget of about 2.63, which is pretty much in line with FY24 increase, which was 2.64. So we've been kind of holding in that under 3% increase in terms of the overall expenses. We're seeing an increase in the appropriation, obviously, from the town because the fact that we had lost state aid. So we've got to make that up in another way. And our only source of revenue would be the municipal appropriation. So overall, the programs that the superintendent had looked at previously, we'd be looking at $8,571,725 to fund those existing programs. Revenue side, we have decreasing state aid of $27,526. We currently have projecting 18 out-of-district students at $6,000 per annum. And then we have 7 pre-K students at $2,700 per annum. Again, the increase in the town appropriation, we have 3% for 234. And we're looking at an anticipated distribution for the Newport County Regional Special Education of about $50,000 that would show as revenue. We have 100 that we have in the FY24 budget as revenue. we're anticipating that that distribution should be in excess of that 100. So we're adding the 50,000 that's included in, we're gonna include that in our FY25 budget. Now, in the event that we don't make the 50, we've got an accumulated surplus that we can utilize even after the transfers to capital that can sustain a little bit of a hit at this point in time. So, but I think it's prudent to look at the 50,000 as an additional distribution. We're hoping that we can resolve everything by June 30th of this year. Things seem to be moving a little bit slower in terms of the final numbers there, but hopefully we can get those resolved. We do know that there's ample funds at this point in time.
Newport County.
It's a matter of just getting the distributions out. Salaries and wages. We have an increase of 1.4 FTEs for student services, but what we've done is under the Newport County Regional funding, we had last year we had 219,000 in tuition payments charged to the general fund. But we also get an IDA grant, which has a little over $100,000 in that, which we're using to fund Newport County as well, too. So what we've done is we've added 1.4 FTEs to that grant. So we took them out of the general fund, put them onto the grant. We added 1.4 for the Student Services Administration. So it ends up being a wash in terms of the overall FTEs.
Mark's position, which is part-time, and Mariah Dufour's position, which is part-time.
So that's worked out well. So we're not seeing any impact in terms of the transition from Newport County Regional to in-house special ed. The certified bargaining union contract, I think we have one more year on that. That's at 2%. The non-certified bargaining unit we've got a placeholder in there. Those negotiations will take place probably over the next 6 months, but we do have a placeholder in there. Admin salaries are based on the current contracts that are in place. Some teacher costs, right now we're looking at a daily rate of 140. That may be tweaked up a little bit depending on the need to get additional subs in here. But that won't have a significant impact on the budget. And we, in the last contract, we did some teacher coverage pays of 40 and 50 per class. So that's included in the budget as well, too, in salaries and wages.
That has helped offset the daily sub rate.
Use of subs. On the fringe benefit side, health and dental, we're using 5% for health, 3% for dental. That's what the town is using at this point in time. I did talk to Tony Texera today. We think the dental rate might be a little bit lower. It's too early for them to determine the health rate. Generally, it happens in April. I'll tell you that we were self-insured in Lincoln and we moved over to the trust this past year. We got the 6-month review and our claims versus the premiums paid were at about 70%, which I think was great from Lincoln's standpoint. But what was telling about that is the rebates that we got from the trust in terms of the script plans. We received in Lincoln $450,000 for 6 months. We negotiated a plan with Blue Cross for the scripts in Lincoln, and I was getting $270,000 for the year. So they've got a very robust program for rebates, and that's the reason why they've been able to kind of keep the rates low. So we're hoping that maybe we can squeeze something out of the healthcare rates, but at this point in time, the budget does have a 5% increase for health and 3% for dental. Co-shares will stay the same, 20% for teachers, 18% for non-certified and admin. The teacher pension is coming down to 14.44. I believe it was 15.03 last year, Carol. 15.03. So it was a little bit of a decrease there. And again, with increases in salaries, you'll just have an increase in fringe benefits and defined contribution pension expenses. But I think we're in pretty good shape on the fringe benefit side. Tuitions, as you know, Portsmouth High School now is going from 15,000 to 15,500. We're predicting 84 students versus 82 that we have, so not a significant impact on the overall budget. Special education, I believe we're going to be looking at about 125. Again, because of confidentiality, we can't talk about numbers, but we're looking at a sizable increase. I think we had budgeted $75,000 in 24, so we're looking at a little bit of an increase, which appears consistent with other districts that I've seen. And again, vocational tech, this has kind of taken off over the last couple of years. We have right now budgeted 3 part-timers, 1 full-timer at the Port Career Tech. That tuition course is set at $15,500 for the East Bay. The issue we have with students going to the MET CTE program, which is a state-run program, is that we're calculating that on a different methodology, which is going to require us to pay $24,650 per student. So we're paying almost $9,000 more per student to send them to the Met versus the Newport Career and Tech, or just to go to Portsmouth High School. So
Kids do have choices. They exercise, right to choose. They do.
Busing costs and transportation costs have been pretty good. I mean, our contract calls for about a 3% increase. We're already at 4 of a 5-year contract. So we're good through 26. Buses would say the same, 6 buses plus a midday pre-K run. We've got a late bus. There is some additional cost for fuel surcharges. We're up a little bit because of gas prices. And athletics and extracurricular has been a problem, just trying to get buses for them. So that cost is probably going to be up a little bit because we're struggling to get vendors to provide those buses. The bus monitors, which were required on all K through 5 transportation, we have roughly about $2,900 for the 180 days, and that's a rate of 29.66 per hour. On the fuel oil, it was up significantly in 23. I'm seeing a little bit of an ease in 24. I'm anticipating 25. We should be somewhat less than what we budgeted for FY 24. The electricity has been a problem. You'll have a detailed computation in your packet on this number. This kind of incorporates the virtual net metering agreement, which we're hoping goes into effect by the end of March, or at least by the beginning of April, I should say. And I'm also taking a little bit of the solar and reducing the electric cost in there. It's about 20,000 in that 43.5, which is repayment for the lights. So we did that over a 60-month period. So we've got another 2 years on that. And the theory was that you would have some savings in the electricity cost to offset the cost of the installation of the lights. So that's why they included in the electric bill. There was no interest on that. So we think the issue would be that if we look at the savings from solar and we set that aside in capital to do HVAC here and move away from fossil fuel, we wouldn't want to use that for operating, to reduce operating costs, whereas we want to set that aside for capital to help cover the cost of any of the renovations that we would need for the HVAC system. So that's certainly something that the committee will have to deal with once we get the numbers on solar. Then we have some propane for, I think we use that for hot water. So we have a little bit of an increase in supplies. Again, we have additional student services expenses in there, which will increase it a little bit. Plus, we're also seeing the inflationary pressure in terms of the increases in costs for a lot of the supplies. Textbooks and curriculum programs. John will go through some of those because we have kind of some curriculum that's utilized through the IT area. So when we're looking at textbooks, some of these are going to be electronic and others will be the regular textbooks. Library books have been kind of consistent. We've been running around 10, 10, 5 in that area. And then we have some subscriptions that we purchase as well. So we have a little bit of an increase for overall curriculum supplies for the FY25 budget. Capital outlays. We have Chromebooks, which is going to be a bigger expenditure. We're at a point now where we have to get into a program where we can actually the Chromebooks, updating those. We do have a rural education grant that we apply for every year, which will provide us with about $13,000 in overall grants. So we're going to use that to offset some of the Chromebook additions. And then we've got some smaller capital outlays for overcharging, Windows refresh, in the media center. And as you know, we have the capital reserve fund set aside, so any of the larger capital additions, for example, the solar, the gymatorium, we did the art room, we're looking at some of the kitchen renovations, those will all be taken out of the capital reserve fund. Because we'll get housing aid for those capital items. So, I don't know if you have your.
There's only slides for mine, which, I mean, the bulk of which you actually just went over in the capital outlay section. I can certainly, if anybody has any questions on the line level detail of any of those, I can certainly talk a little bit more about that. But the way my budget is broken out, so it's on page 26 of the packet, is fairly straightforward. So the first section of supplemental instructional programs is largely your education software. There are a couple things not included necessarily. By and large, those are the student-facing applications that they would be using in the classroom. Maybe some assessment software, a little bit of curriculum stuff in there as well. Other technical services, the next category down, largely covers our business applications, you could say. The student information system, employee absence management, the school lunch software, business special ed, document management software in there. Subscriptions to board docs, which we all know and love. Those are more like office or admin basic technical services that keep everything else running. Repairs, we do a lot in-house, so that number we always try to keep really small. I don't know if we actually max out that. Always like to have a little contingency in there. Technology related supplies, those are your typical faculty and student supplies, styluses, styli, I think that'd be the plural. Chargers, cases, supplies for the asset tags, the key fob readers, those sorts of consumable or semi-disposable items, or labeling, tooling, parts that we use to make repairs around the building. Equipment is more of, equipment and technology related hardware really have a lot of overlap, I guess you could say. Equipment tends to be more the back end server room stuff. Life cycle replacement for our battery backups, switch upgrades for our network to make things faster and more efficient. And then technology related hardware is where you'll see most of the overlap with the capital outlay component. Obviously Chromebooks are the biggest number probably that we have in there. But we've actually seen real benefit to replacing the bulk of our devices in one go. Some schools choose to spread it out and do a third year over year. That puts you in as a position where the same model might not be available year over year. So by the time you're in year 3 of a 3-year cycle with these devices, now a portion of your student population is on a different device. And it might just be a few buttons, it might be major functionality that's different, the charger or something like that. But it's enough to cause real disruption in some cases. Things aren't consistent anymore across the classroom, across grade levels. It helps with our ability to be able to respond to problems. We can grab any spare Chromebook we have in our loader pool and replace it with one, the broken one that a student gives us instantly. No downtime on that side of things. So that's our biggest one, which Mr. McNamee said is offset by the REAP grant and as well as the buyback value that we've already started to reach out and see what our current fleet of Chromebooks is worth. So that should largely at least mirror what the REAP grant gives us, maybe a little bit more. And then there's technology software is the last category. These are the services that keep everything up and running. Your help desk, our licensing for email systems, cloud storage, process management software, our device management. So again, all kind of business process software that keeps our devices up to date, secure, gets them provisioned for students and in the hands of families, that kind of thing. That's really it.
So in your binder, you'll have the booklet that I put together, which is kind of consistent with the monthly financial statements that you get. So it's by chart of accounts or the COA chart of accounts that we use. There's an executive summary in there as well. You have a detailed list of the salaries for teachers, non-certified, administrative. That's all included in there. You have the calculation of many of the larger items, such as your medical costs. You have the Boston High School tuition computation in there. You've got the CTE tuition computations in there. You'll have John's budget in terms of his overall technology that's included in here in some detail. The transportation budget is included in there as well. So there's a lot of information in here to support that budget, which will give you an opportunity to kind of review that and certainly add and provide any input that you might have in terms of any changes that you may want to make to the budget or any questions you may have on the overall budget. And again, the electricity computation is in there showing the kilowatt hour usage for the last 4 years and including the computation that I have in there for this year's electric rates.
Very thorough, Mr. McNamee. I'd imagine we're gonna, I know we've had these documents for a couple days now. There's been a presentation. Both Megan and Michael are going to be brought up to speed on this, whether it's on their own accord and or reaching out. We also are going to have another budget committee type meeting like this so we can discuss further later this month. Are there any questions now from Sue or Hannah regarding the presentation this evening?
No.
Sue, please.
Well, I don't know what question to ask.
Oh, no,
Sorry.
collect them all.
No, I want to like sit with it and then
Yes,
can I
sure.
pick your brain?
Absolutely.
I always feel like I took a drink off a fire hose
Yes.
when you get done. And I don't mean to be dumb, but
No, I mean, so that's
Like-
exactly it.
February 28th.
But I also came into a lot of stuff like whatever things you guys had started a couple of years ago, that always gets brought up and I sit here and go, whatever. And I just trust you and, and
Yeah, no, absolutely.
so if you don't mind, I don't know what to ask, but
We
I,
have to submit to the town by March 1st.
Correct.
So
my birthday, so
there you go.
a cake.
So we have to give them the request. So we have to give them that appropriation number, which is the key number, that 3%. So what we're gonna be doing in the meantime is we're still gonna be looking at these numbers. And if things come in that might indicate that we need to change, we'll make some changes. So what you're seeing now may not be the final numbers. We'll certainly keep you updated if there are other changes that we're gonna be making too. But certainly any questions you do have on it, feel free to contact myself or the superintendent, and we can get those responses. And again, we'll have another session where we can kind of go through
Another workshop. A lot to take in.
Yes.
the budget.
So, but Sue's right. So anybody that does have questions, compile them and send them off to Mr. McNamee as he has shared, and or, Carolyn can make sure Lori, Jonathan, Mr. McNamee all see. So, if you just want to go to a direct source, Carolyn's always a great point person on
She's the
that.
district contact person.
And then from there, like I said, we will be meeting again. It is tentatively for the 28th. I know that is a date because we have the first to worry about. I have shared that date with Michael. I'm sharing it with the rest of the committee tonight. And unless there is, the inability to have a quorum, we would target that day, which is a Wednesday, 2 weeks from today.
Which would be the workshop and then ultimately the vote to
The
approve.
vote to approve.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
And then, exactly, and forward it up to the budget committee and council, I believe.
So when you look at this budget and when I do some of the larger expenses, you're gonna see that your salary numbers and your fringe benefit numbers, which kind of trail your salary numbers, really make up the bulk of the budget. And then when you look at your Portsmouth High School tuition, you look at your transportation costs, you look at the other audit district tuitions for, let's see, CTE and special education, there's not a lot of other items in there. You've got a certain amount of cost for your property items, but whether you're paying for, fire alarms, inspections on your fire alarms, and some of those are kind of fixed.
Correct.
There's not a lot of,
Movement.
that we can look at, but certainly the big areas certainly are salaries and fringe benefits.
Okay.
But like Portsmouth High School, I mean, we're anticipating all the grade 8s will go up to the high school. The graduating class comes out, so we come up with 84 students, I think it was. So that's, whether we get 85 students or we get 82 students, I mean, it's kind of a guess, but we're on target this year for the 82. So I think we can feel fairly comfortable we'll be in that range.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just writing down my question.
Money man, money guy.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Lori.
Pleasure. Good team.
Thank you for the presentation. I will now consider a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning the school committee budget workshop for February 14, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes carry. The meeting is dismissed. Thank you all. We will resume in approximately